Our session today will look at introduction to what is called the capm model and the Gordon's growth model. So in corporate finance, investors want to know two main things. Number one, what return can I expect for the risk I will take to invest? Number two, what is the true intrinsic value of the stock if I'm going to invest in the stock market? So it is important that there are two models that are there to answer this question. There's what is called the capm model, which is a capital asset pricing model, which helps us to calculate the required return. And we also have what we call the Gordon growth model, which helps us to calculate what we call the intrinsic value of a stock. So these models actually used together in investment for decision making. So let's start with what we call the capital asset pricing model. What is this model? So the capm model is simply a model that explains the relationship between beta and expected return. It actually tells investors that the higher the risk, the higher the what? The required rate of return. So to explain this, there's what we call the CML line, which looks something like this. Okay, the CML line, which looks something like this. So this CML line helps us to illustrate the relationship that exists between what? Those two important things. So this CML line is very important because it helps to explain the relationship that exists between the return and beta. The concept here under the capital asset pricing model is what directly produces the equation. Expected return is equal to risk-free rate plus market return minus risk-free rate times beta. So what is this SML? The SML is a security market line which shows how the expected return of a security changes with the beta. And what is beta in simple terms? It's the risk level. So it answers the questions: what return should an investor expect for a given level of risk? So you can see on the graph there we have the horizontal x-axis, which typifies the beta. All right, the beta is here. Then the return is on the y-axis. So the key points here are number one, the intercept. This intercept is actually the risk-free rate. This is where beta is zero. It represents a return on risk-free movement. Then the market beta, when we have a beta as one, it actually corresponds to the expected return of the market and shows us the return for an average market. Then the slope is actually the risk premium. It shows how much additional return that investors will require if they take up extra risk, right? So the capm model formula is given by risk return is equal to what? Risk-free rate plus beta, and we have what? ARM minus risk-free rate. Now this is also called premium. So if you want, you can say the return is given by what? Risk-free rate plus beta plus the premium if it's given directly. Okay, so these are the key concepts. What is the risk-free rate? This is a return from a safe investment like a government bond. What is the market return? This is actually average return in the market. What is the risk premium? The risk premium is the extra return that investors demand for taking additional risk. So the risk premium is simply equal to a market risk minus a risk-free rate. So these are very important. So beta helps us to calculate the measure of risk. When beta is equal to the 1, it means it is the same as the market. When it's more than 1, meaning your asset is more risky. It's less than 1, it's less risky. If it's 0, there's zero risk at all. So I've talked about the SML line and the interpretation. So now let's look at an example here. So if you're given a risk-free rate of 5% and the market return is 12%. What is the risk premium? Risk premium is simply the market return minus what? Risk-free rate. So in this case, 12% minus 5%, we get 7%. That is how we find the risk premium. Are we together? That is how we find our risk premium. So let's look at an example. I hope we're together so far. Anyone lost so far? So the risk premium is simply the difference between those two. Okay, so let's look at this question here. Question number one, we're told that the risk-free rate is 5%, the expected market return is 12%. So using Gordon's model, the required calculate the required return for each of the following stocks and determine whether the stock is undervalued or the stock is overvalued or is fairly valued. So we're given these particular um, uh, coordinates, so to say. So what can we do on the first part? We need to know whether it's an overvalued or undervalued. So we're given the risk-free rate, 5%, market return, 12%. So we need to calculate for each of them the required return of stock. So we can start with stock X. Okay, stock X. What do we have? Our risk-free rate is what? 5%. What else are we given? Stock X. Our beta is what? 0.9. Our expected return is 11%. Then we're given risk-free rate here is what? 5%. But the market return here will be varying from this one. We want to base it on this value. So we need to calculate each of them and understand whether it's overvalued or undervalued. So we'll do the same for all of them. So for stock X, we'll compare it to the 12%. If we get anything below 12%, we are going to say it is what? We're going to say that it is what? Overvalued. If we get above 12%, it means that 12% is undervalued. So let's calculate. What is the formula for expected return? So expected return is simply given by what? Risk-free rate plus what? Beta expected market return minus risk-free rate. So here we're 5%, then 12 minus 5%, we get 7% times the beta. So we're going to get our final answer as 11.3. Okay, or 11. So against the 12%, what can we say? That this stock is overvalued, right? So we're just trying to answer the question to say we are able to tell from the capm model whether a stock is overvalued or undervalued. So you can justify the answers here using our CML curve. Now let's go to the constant growth model.
Uh,
Constant growth model.
Question.
Okay, I'll allow you to ask questions. Any questions so far?
If you can go back to that part where you calculated, which return did you use? The market return or the market return, expected return, or the other return that
The
was on
market,
the
the
question
market, the market return of 12%. So
of
this is
12%?
our reference
Oh,
point here. So if we get an answer above this one, meaning this one was what? Was undervalued. If you get an answer below here, any answer below here, it means this one was overvalued. If your answer is above here, this one is undervalued. Okay, so you can do the same
okay.
for the others.
Why did sorry, why didn't we use the 11 for stock X?
Why didn't we use the 11 for X?
Yeah, if you could just go on top, like where the
Let's go to the
question is
original
with the.
question. Let's go to the original question. Actually, we're supposed to refer it to the 11. Yes. So our answer is going to be based on the 11 itself. So if we get an answer,
So
so here our answer on our required return was 11.3 and our actual was 11%. So the 11.3 based on the actual return of 11, we can say it is what overvalued, right? So we're basing it on the actual, which is 11. So let's try to calculate for y quickly. What is the return for y? We're going to base it on the actual, which is 16%. So how do we calculate the return for stock y? The return is equal to what? Risk-free rate. What is our risk-free rate? 5%, right? Plus, what is the beta? 1.4. And the risk premium. What is our risk premium? 16% minus 5% is what? 11%. So what do we get when we calculate that? We're going to get 14.8%. So can somebody comment? 14.8%. Is this overvalued or undervalued? 14.8. Here we found 11.3. So here our conclusion was what? Our conclusion was that it was what? It was overvalued. The 11.3 was more than the 11%. So here we found 14.8 against the 16%. What is the position? It is above the CML. So the 14% is below the actual 16%. So our valuation is that the stock Y is what? Undervalued. Then lastly, we calculate the beta at 1%, at 1.0. So risk-free rate will be what? The return is 5% times 1 plus 1 times the risk premium. Our risk premium is what? The expected market return 12% minus what? A risk rate of 5%. So 12 minus 5 is what? 7. So 1 times 7 is 7. 7 plus 5 is 12. So here we're getting 12 as our market return against the 12. Can somebody comment based on the SML line? Are we over, under, or fairly valued of these three options? What can you comment? It is fairly valued, isn't it? It is fairly valued. Are we together?
Yes.
So let's go to Gordon. So What is Gordon's model? Gordon's model is simply what? A model that is used to value stock. The Gordon's model is simply a model that is used to value stock. And Gordon's model, or alternatively called the constant growth, the Gordon growth model. It is given by the following formula. PO is equal to D1 R minus G, where R is the required rate of return, the G is the growth rate, and PO is the intrinsic value. So you can alternatively rewrite this as follows. PO is equal to what? D0, 1 plus growth over R minus G. Okay, so this is what we call our intrinsic value using the Gordon's model. So in an event where you're given our D0, for instance, 10 kwacha, our growth rate is 4%, and return is 16%. So we're given D0 maybe 10 kwacha. Our required rate of return is 14%. Our growth rate is 4%. How do we calculate the intrinsic value using Gordon's model? So P0 is equal to what? D0, which is 10 kwacha. Okay, growth is 4%. So here we're going to put 1.04 over 14%, 0.14. And that's our growth, which is 4%. So what we get here, 10.4 over 14% minus 4% is what? 10%, 0.10. So what we get as our intrinsic value is 104 kwacha. That's how we calculate the intrinsic value. So somebody help me. Suppose instead we're given our D1 as 11 kwacha and our required rate of return maybe is 18%. And our growth rate is what? Is 8%. And here D1 is maybe let me put 10 kwacha. How do we calculate the intrinsic value using Gordon's model?
So since we're given D1, we're going to say D1 over R minus G,
Yes.
and which is going to be 10 over 0.18 minus 0.08.
So here P0 is good what? D1 K minus R minus G. Or K minus the same thing, depending on the book you're using or who taught you, whatsoever. So 10 is our D1. We don't need to compute it using the growth, isn't it? It's already D1. Then here it will be what? 18%. So 0.18 over 0.08. So what we get? 100 kwacha. So that is our intrinsic value. All together, 100 kwacha. Is that clear? Any questions?
So R minus G is just the same as current market price?
It's just the same as K minus G, the required rate of return minus the growth rate.
No, my question is that other formulas have got PO there, which is the current market price. So it's just
Yes.
the same as R minus G?
PO is the current market price or intrinsic value.
Yeah.
PO means price now. D0 is dividend now. Anything 0 is yes. The formula is D1 minus R minus G or K minus G. K means the required rate of return. Is that clear?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Also, you were saying we're calculating the intrinsic value. So
Yes.
is there another value that they can tell us to calculate, or is the value the same?
When they tell you the intrinsic value, you use that formula. When they tell you the value of stock now, using Gordon's model, I'll teach you there's another formula. There are two formulas. Okay.
Okay.
So for now, we're just using the Gordon's constant model and the capm model. Okay. So who
I
wants?
how did you arrive at 100? I thought we were dividing 10 divided by 0.18 minus 0.08.
Yes, 18% minus 8% is 10%. So 10 over 0.1. What do we get? 100 quarter, isn't it?
Okay, all right.
Okay. Now let's go to the exam question. These questions were extrapolated from the exam. Now, I don't know whatever goes in your mind when you become confused. A company just paid a dividend of 2.5 per share, and dividends are expected to grow at a constant rate of 4% per year indefinitely. The required rate of return on equity is 11%. What is the intrinsic value of stock today using Gordon's model? How do we do? Who wants to try that one? So what are we given? Uh-huh.
So I hear the question is saying the company has just paid an annual dividend. So meaning we have D1.
Mm-hmm.
It's not saying we're going to pay. So we have D1. So we're going to use the formula PO is equal to D1 over R minus G.
Whenever you hear just paid, it means that is D0, not D1, okay?
Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
that is
So
our
meaning
D0.
we're going to use
Please,
D1 to
hi, could you just repeat what you just said?
Whenever you hear to say a company has just paid, that is D0. Or we say a company will pay after year one, that is D1. So just paid means D0. Okay. So a company just paid a dividend of what? 2 point. So our D0 is what? 2.5. So you need to calculate D1. D1 is equal to D0 1 plus growth. So when you put that, our D1 will be 2.6. So this is the 2.6 there. And what else were we given? We're told that our required rate of return is 11% and the constant growth rate is 4%. So 11 minus 4%, you divide it into the D1 calculated. So 11 minus 4% into the 2.6, and you get that 7.14. So this is our intrinsic value of the stock. Is that clear? So now, my question to you is, we've calculated our D as what? That's 7. Now we're told in the second question is that if the current market price is at 8, is the stock undervalued or overvalued?
undervalued.
Why? My intrinsic value is what? The 7.14, but the market price
It's
is at
yeah.
8.
So yeah,
So meaning the market price
it's
is what?
below the 38.
So it's like the market price is what you're basing on. The market price is what overvalued. The actual price that the stock must actually fetch is 37, but on the market it's what? 38. So this is what? Overvalued. Why are you using the market price of 38 when the actual price of the stock should be 37? This is with the perfect information that you have, that this stock you're selling me for the date, its actual price is supposed to be 37. So it's being overvalued. Are we together? So now what
Okay,
we
so
do?
we're answering not according to the answer we found,
According to the
but
answer we
we're
found, the answer we
comparing
found was
the,
37, but it's selling on the
yes,
market for
but
38. So this
okay,
market,
so we're saying the answer according to the market. So if we say the 37 was below the market, so we're comparing what we've got to the market or the market to what we've got.
yes, in simple terms,
I think
that
that's where the confusion is
in
coming
simple
in.
language is that the stock is selling for 38, but when you sort down, because you did corporate finance, you discover that the worth of that stock is 37. So what they're selling it for is 38. So they're overvaluing it. It's overvalued. All right? That's the implication. Intrinsic value is the real value that it's worth, but it's not what it's selling for. So therefore, what do you advise the investor? What would be your investment advice? So if the stock is selling above the true value, meaning the investor is paying more than it's worth, so do not buy it. It's like you're going to stock market and like you're saying that no, we're selling this, and you calculate say no, actually this is right. So if already holding it, you just sell it. If you already have it, sell it because you're going to make it more money. So there are two ways. If you want to buy that stock, you discover that it's worth 38, they're selling for 38, for 37, don't buy it. But you already have the stock and you discover that it's trading on 38, but its real value for somebody who's going to calculate it will discover that it's 37. Sell it because its intrinsic value is what? Is 37. So if you are already holding it, you sell it. If you haven't bought it, don't buy it. It's overpriced. Altogether. Then explain one limitation using the Gordon's model for this company. What are some of the limitations for the Gordon model? It assumes that there's a constant growth forever, which is in reality not the fact because companies don't grow at a fixed rate indefinitely. So the growth rate may change due to economic what conditions, competition, sometimes business performance. So this model may not always give you the accurate results altogether. So sometimes capm model is combined with the Gordon's model. Okay. So now that I've taught you independently, we now can consider doing them together, these ones here. So let us answer this and we call it an evening. So we're given stock, which has the following characteristics. Number one, risk-free rate is 6%, market return 13%, beta 1.2, most recent dividend paid is 1.8, constant growth dividend is 5%, market price is 28. Calculate the required rate of return using the capm model. And how do we calculate that? How do we calculate
You,
the
you use the, you use the formula risk-free plus
Mhm.
beta times in brackets expected market return minus the risk-free. So for the risk-free, we're going to have 6% plus the beta of, is that 1.2 a percent?
No, it's not a percent. It's just 1.2 as it is.
Okay, plus the beta of 1.2, and then
Mhm.
since we've already been given directly the expected market return, which is 13% minus 6%.
Mhm. Are you following what she's saying? Very good. So,
So in the brackets, that's what we also call the risk premium in case you're given directly.
mhm.
So in the brackets, if I start with the brackets, it would be 13 minus the risk-free of 6,
Very good.
which is going to give us 7. And
Mhm.
then the 7, we multiply with the beta of 1.2
Mhm.
to give us 8.4. 8.4 plus, is it
6%.
6? 6
Okay.
to give us
Point four.
14.4.
Correct. Excellent. So risk-free rate was 6%, the market rate 13 and 1.2. So using this capm model, you calculate our values as she guided. Are we all following? So that is how you calculate the value of stock or using the um, capm model. Okay. So intrinsic value, who wants to try that one? How do we go to intrinsic value? What are we given? Intrinsic value. What are we given for using the Gordon's model? Most recent. What is that most recent? Is it DO or D1?
DO, I
Yes,
think.
DO, correct. So what is the formula for Gordon?
Mm, PO is equals to D1 minus, oh, sorry, D1 over R minus the growth rate.
Good. And we're given D1. No, we calculate D1 by D01 plus growth. Our D1 is 1.89. So we substitute it over growth of 14.4, which we calculated from part A, the capping model, minus a growth of 5%. So our price of stock is what? 20.11. Is that clear? Let's go to part C. Let's compare the intrinsic value and the market rate and state whether the stock is overvalued or undervalued. So what was our market rate? What was our market rate?
Is it 28?
Mm-hmm. Our market rate and what was our intrinsic value? We just calculated 20.11. So what is your comment?
20.10.
Uh, so what is your comment? Is it overvalued or undervalued? So our
It
intrinsic
was
value
overvalued.
and our market rate is what? 20. So the market rate is 20 higher than that. So if the market rate is more than intrinsic value, the stock is what? Overvalued. If market rate is less than intrinsic value, it's undervalued. If they're equal, it's fairly valued. So in our case, what is our comment?
It was overvalued.
Overvalued.
Yes, it was overvalued. Correct. Okay. Are we together? My people perish because of what? Lack of
Knowledge.
knowledge and understanding. Yeah. So now the sample question that people are now passing about in the groups and saying it's a tough question for capim model. I'm resending it again. What was the problem there? Are you able to attempt it now as your homework? This was an exam question by him. The risk-free rate is 7%, market return, calculate and determine whether each of the following stocks was fairly valued. Beta is this, current is that. Okay. So I hope it will make sense. It was 12 marks. Okay, so we end here. This was more clearer. You have
Thank you. Flip
okay.
the
Yes.
other page.